everyone. I hope we're all doing well. Oh, I don't have a chat. One second. Let me get my chat window up if I can. Uh, let's see. Maybe it's up here and just hidden. No, I don't think I have a chat. One second. Uh, one moment. I'm going to go to be right back, and I'll be back when I have chat. All right, welcome back for real this time. Sorry about that. I was like, it feels so lonely. Why does it feel so lonely? No one is talking. And I was like, yes, I see. Uh, yes, David in chat is talking about how having doing this the second day after, which he decided is a little bit nicer, means that you know what you're looking for me to react to. So that will be interesting to see. Yeah, as it happens, I've seen a lot of people solve this puzzle. Not Simon before, because I have not spoiled it for myself, but I have seen. Let's see, I've seen Tristan solve it. I've seen Nell solve it. I've seen Timotab solve it. And I have seen Rofels solve it on Twitch. Rofels is the name, right, Tristan? Tristan will correct me if I have misremembered the name. So I have seen a bunch of solves of this, so I'll be interested to see how Simon's compares. So far, all the solves that I have seen of this have very closely mirrored my intended path, so I'm hopeful, at least, that Simon will also, but we will see. Also, I see that William is missing an episode of Traders UK to watch. I cannot. I'm a big Traders fan as well, so I look forward to seeing the Traders UK as well. I'm not sure which is my favorite version of the Traders. I've watched a lot of versions of the Traders, but we actually just started watching the Traders US season 3 last night. I'm sure we'll watch season 3 of the UK one soon as well. All right, but without further ado, I suppose we can jump into Simon's video and see this. So let us see. Traders Canada is a great choice. Well, you never need to do directive at work anyway, right?
Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and look at all these letters in the grid. We are going to be having a look at a puzzle called Ladder.
So I had a lot of people just to say, because I know a lot of people are going to ask about this. There are these like slightly annoying white lines in the grid if you're particularly inclined to notice these things, and a lot of people have asked me in one way or another why these lines exist. The reason why these sort of weird lines, and by which I'm talking about like this white line through here, and you can see a couple of them here, and you can actually kind of notice that they seem to line up with the labels. And yes, David says you're very likely to see them if you start coloring in this puzzle. As it happens, I didn't color at all when setting or solving this puzzle, but some people did, which is perfectly reasonable. So if you start coloring, then you really notice it. And so some people have been like, why on earth are they there? Are they some sort of like mind game? Are they a reference to the title Ladder? Can we find the secret message if we decrypt it? And then, especially enigmatically, some people have noticed that this cell seems to have one of those weird white lines, even though all the others align with text, which is drawn. A great deal of additional speculation from some people. Anyway, the incredibly boring reason is that the way that I put this together is that in F puzzles, in order to create these labels on the lines, I used killer cages. And of course, you can't see the killer cages. It's because I made the killer cages white so that you couldn't see them. But the slight dashed white lines are the shadows of killer cages. That can be avoided if you do this in Sudoku Maker. The reason I did it this way is because I know people are quite attached, I think, to these different styles of line. And so I wanted to match the color and thickness that people expected. I definitely wanted to label everything. I mean, I'd say for color blindness reasons, but honestly, these three all look. I mean, I guess these two I can tell apart, but the entropic I think looks pretty similar to the others. So even though I'm not colorblind, I still appreciated having labels here for this. So anyway, so that just to get the most boring possible explanation out of the way, it is not the beginning of a secret zetamath augmented reality game that you are all now unknowingly participating in, I promise.
By the great zetamath.
But maybe that's exactly what I would say if
puzzle.
It was the beginning.
Well, very liney is how I would describe it. Lots of different types of lines, which zetamath's always very good about folk with colour blindness, which actually includes me. And zetamath's labelled all the lines with these three initials, so that is a Renban line. Don't worry if you don't know what a Renban line is. I will explain in due course. I think this must be a 10.
Yeah, you'll notice that by default the thickness of the entropic line is much different than the thickness of the Renban, than the thickness of the Nabner, and so on. And so people who are used to doing a lot of these puzzles without labels may have internalized an association with the thickness. Now, I know you can adjust thicknesses in Sudoku Maker, but that would require that I know the thickness to tell it to make it to match it, because it doesn't help if I just make them different thicknesses. They have to be the same thicknesses that people are used to. It's possible that nowadays all of these constraints are coded into Sudoku Maker with the same thicknesses, so it might happen automatically now. I am not sure. Except for 10 lines. The canonical zetamath color code for 10 lines, by the way, is CD, 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 which I can remember for reasons that you might be able to guess based on what it is. But yeah, the choice to have the thickness be very different is a wise one for the ones with sort of similar color spectrum.
Entropic, presumably German whisper, Nabner, the dreaded Nabner line as well.
At least the Nabner shouldn't traumatize him too much in this puzzle.
This one, which might, if I can do it, give me a little bit of a hiatus. I think the last 4 or 5 puzzles I've done on the channel have all been well over an hour. Some of them have been monstrously hard.
Okay, this is indeed under an hour.
Please let me have an easier ride today.
I think this shouldn't be too bad.
I did look at the comments on this one on Logic Masters before I turned on the webcam, and they are eulogistic. Absolutely loved is how one could best describe the reaction to this puzzle. As well,
this puzzle has gotten really nice comments. Sometimes I make a puzzle and I'm like, I think this puzzle is really good and I think people are going to really like it. And sometimes I make a puzzle and I'm like, this puzzle's good. I'll publish it. And usually if I'm of the opinion that I think a puzzle is really good, almost always, maybe not uniformly, people end up really liking it. But every once in a while, one of the ones that I sort of think is like medium, people really gravitate towards. And this is definitely one of the ones that I thought was kind of in the middle, but everyone really gravitated towards it. And I got a lot of really nice comments. So I was really happy about that, especially because this is coming after It's been a little bit since I published a puzzle. Uh, very liney, must be a zetamath puzzle. I mean, I do like my line constraints. That is for sure. And even if I sometimes claim that German whispers aren't really a line constraint, but we'll let them be honorable members of the line constraint club. Uh, but yeah, so I do really appreciate comments on puzzles, by the way. So if you've left me kind comments, I greatly appreciate it.
Actually, all of zetamath's puzzles are a treat, but this one seems to be particularly garnering great praise. So I'll read the rules in a
All
moment
of them are
or
a
two's
treat.
time.
Says someone who has not done
now,
antimatter.
what do I have to mention before we kick off today? Well, we are streaming again. We're going back to streaming next Tuesday evening. So we'd love to have your company for that at 10 p.m. UK time. We're going to be having a look at a puzzle called, well, not a puzzle, a game. Oh, no, my screen's moved around again.
World.
This is called Nurikabe World. And it's Nurikabe, if you're not familiar with it, is sort of a Japanese logic problem invented by the great puzzling behemoth Niccoli back in the day. And a group of Finnish programmers have created a sort of labour of love, this thing called Nurikabe World. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to having a go at it. And those of you who love Nurikabe, if you've never tried Nurikabe, you must have a look at it. We have done them on the channel from time to time, but not very often. They are a wonderful thing. So anyway, that game is out, and we are going to be having a go at it next Tuesday evening.
Nurikabe is definitely one of the higher tier pencil puzzle genres. I did at some point do a pencil puzzle genre tier list, and I'm pretty sure they were in A tier, just below S tier, but they are quite high. I don't like the reachability arguments when they have that, but that's not the focus of most of them, I would say.
One of the other things going on at the moment is over on Patreon, where our monthly competition is running. It's only 4 days left now. Let's have a look at where we are. No, I haven't refreshed this, so let's have a quick look. 805 yesterday. 805 people had done all of the puzzles.
Wow,
852, 50 people overnight. It is absolutely stunning. So you can see 2,400 attempted the first, successfully completed. Let's be clear, successfully completed
a through rate of like a third is pretty impressive, actually, to go from the first puzzle to the last.
First puzzle, and a third of them have made their way through to finish all 19. So it's all themed on The Hobbit, as you can see. These are all the chapter headings from The Hobbit, very faithfully reproduced by blobs. Really wonderful stuff. You still could easily finish if you haven't started yet. If you devote just a few hours of puzzling time, and you will have great pleasure, I assure you, if you do have a look at it. If you're not a patron and you want to have a go, it's a couple of bucks a month to join us there. All sorts of extra content.
Now,
Mark's connection videos.
Now, the next thing we get to see is when Simon goes over the rules. Did someone at Cracking the Cryptic notice that when I made the rules for this, I did not list Renbon in the list of rules, even though there's clearly Renbon in the puzzle, and they're listed on LMD, but not in the Sudoku pad link. And quite often, the Cracking the Cryptic people rewrite the rules for the Sudoku pad link, so we'll see if they notice.
Extra crossword content, extra Sudoku solves, and of course these wonderful monthly competitions. And the other thing I've got to mention today is birthdays. Let me look at my list of birthdays. We'll start off with Benjamin. Benjamin, it's your birthday. I know this because your partner Rachel wrote to us and told us that you were a lifelong puzzler and had recently acquired 2 puzzle books by the late...
I talked about that a little at the very beginning of the stream, Olaf. The short version is there's a way to do it in Sudoku Maker, but there's a reason I didn't do it in Sudoku Maker. And I think you might be able to do it in F-Puzzles if you're willing to edit the raw JSON of the puzzles, which is what everyone tells me anytime I say that F-Puzzles can't do something. And that is a level of technology that I am not willing to aspire to. So I have not attempted that, but it's possible that you could do it by editing the JSON.
Great composer Stephen Sondheim, and that took me back actually, because Stephen Sondheim was was a sort of pioneer in trying to get our cryptic crosswords, the sort of British cryptic crossword style of crossword, if you like, introduced into America back in the day. I think he was quite successful at it. And of course, Stephen Sondheim was an absolute lover of the listener crossword, which was something that I fell in love with in my youth. Well.
Another option, I should say, that I thought did not look good, but another option is you can have text centered in Sudoku Pad. So I could have put these labels instead of up in the left corner. I could have put them behind this in like a gray or whatever. But I didn't like what that did to my beautiful lines.
What an incredible
so
mind
I did not
had.
go with that. But
so
it is
Benjamin,
an option.
I sort of envy you your puzzle books. I think Rachel has recently started watching the channel with you as well. So, well, I wish the two of you well. And Benjamin, I hope you have a great birthday today with plenty of chocolate cake, of course.
Happy late birthday, Benjamin.
Now, the next birthday is to Kat. Kat, it's your birthday today. I know this because your boyfriend Aaron wrote to us and told us that you can sleep anywhere. Apparently, he has never known anybody quite as good at sleeping as you are, but your favourite way to go to sleep is listening to Cracking the Cryptic videos.
What a wonderful thing to say about your spouse.
Apparently, they do keep you awake because you get fascinated by them, so that's fine. Aaron, I hope you get the brownie points that you were hoping for as a result of the shout-out today. And Kat, I hope you have a very happy birthday. Now, the next birthday is Tegan. Now, Tegan, I have to apologise to you. I don't know what's gone wrong in my brain. Many things go wrong in my brain. But your boyfriend, Aaron, so not Kat's boyfriend, Aaron, this is a different Aaron, did write to us about your birthday. And
do we know for sure it's the same? It's a different Aaron? Maybe there's a whole multiverse thing going on
Tegan,
here.
I hope you had a great birthday yesterday. I know you enjoyed the cryptic crossword videos, I think, the most. And I hope you had chocolate cake and you can forgive me. I hope all of those things. Next, Panthera. It's your birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Panthera.
Amy in real life, of course. I would recommend that you watch Mark's video later. I hope he can get through. I know the testers scheduled one of your puzzles for him. So I mean, wouldn't it be awful?
Yeah, Matt Laffey got exactly what I guessed, was that you could add a transparency flag to the end of the tag in JSON, which makes sense, yeah.
Not a Panthera puzzle, but I know he is going to try. So Panthera, many happy returns. I hope you get the cake
polycule is
that you
very
desire.
possible. I was going to say yes. So some of us do have more than one significant other. It is a thing that happens.
Patrick, it was your birthday yesterday.
I was, some people might be happy to hear, thinking about a sequel to Modern Romance the other day, which is my my polyamory themed Sudoku puzzle.
Your email came in
which
just
I don't think
too
there's
late.
a lot of polyamory.
You turned 23. Love Fog of War puzzles. And your email was full of very kind words about us. So thank you for that, Patrick. I hope you had a great birthday. And then finally, just in time for today's video, Jacques. Jacques, it's your birthday. And I know this because your housemates Daisy and Hannah wrote to us and said you might like a shout out. And I think you often do puzzles together and then watch the videos if you get stuck. I think a lot of people do that. So, Jacques, I hope you have a great birthday, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, which I may well not be. I was given no guidance in my defence, but that's how I would pronounce those characters in that order. So I hope I haven't got it wrong. Now, with all that said and done,
okay, they've read out all the
turn
rules
our
here.
attention to the great zetamaths puzzle, Ladder. Why is it called Ladder? I don't know, actually.
Oh, this is the other question I have gotten a number of times. So the reason it is called ladder is because of the geometry of the break-in, which is going to involve column 1, column 9, and row 5, which looks to me like a ladder rung, which is polyphilia. Maybe I would prefer to avoid philia suffixes. So that is why it is called ladder. It's not a particularly creative title. I did consider calling it H, but I thought that was a little too on the nose. So that was why I named it that way, because that was the first sort of beginning of the structure. And a lot of my puzzles that have a more geometric break-in, the title is a reference to the more geometric break-in. So like crossroad or cross whatever it was, crossway, crosswalk. Crosswalk was the name of it. If you look at crosswalk, the geometry in that is similar to a crosswalk, which is why I picked that. So sometimes it's this oblique reference. Basically, the only point of titles is to uniquely distinguish puzzles, and in an ideal world, to make it so that when someone talks about the puzzle a year from now, I'll know what puzzle they're talking about. Which it's not yet been a year, so I don't know if Ladder will do. But I will tell you, it will do a lot better than any of the puzzles I set last year when people say, oh, I'm about to do. And then any of my puzzles from last year have terrible names in terms of me having any memory of what they are. Like someone the other day said, oh, I'm doing Drift. And I was like, wait, which one is that? And then someone was like, it's the Yajalon Yuban one. And I was like, why didn't I just call it the Yajalon Yuban one? I don't know. Anyway, so I aspire in titles to make it so that I can actually remember what the hell the puzzle is when someone talks about the name later. But we'll see if that comes to pass.
It doesn't look like a ladder particularly, does it? It's got a lot of... Are these all rungs of ladders or something? I don't know. Anyway, let me read you the rules, and then we can have a go at solving it. The rules are as follows. Normal Sudoku rules apply. That means we've got to put the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, every column, and every 3x3 box. Digits along grey 10 lines.
Very explicitly considered titles like Friends episodes when I was first starting out. I maybe I'll go through an era where it's the one with the German whispers with a 5 on it, or whatever it could have been.
10 is in capital letters. Oh, right, that's just because of the labels, right. Must be broken into one or more non-overlapping segments that each sum to 10. Digits may repeat within such sums if allowed by other rules. For example, 5131 73 is a valid fill for a length 6 line because it can be broken into 5131 and 73, each of which sum to 10. Okay, so we can't do the example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that's an 8 length line. That looks like it's even longer than... Oh, that's also an 8 length line. Imagine this bit of the line.
Yeah, I have one example of 10 lines that I copy paste because 10 lines are the most frequently misunderstood rule in terms of ways to write it out. So I think I finally come up with a way to write it out that I think addresses all of the criticisms about all the other different ways to say it. Because particularly if English is not your first language, it's difficult to parse the ways I've previously said it, so I basically just use the same one, so the example doesn't fit anywhere in the puzzle because of that.
Line wasn't on this 10 sum. Actually, it might not work because there's repeated digits and 5. Oh no, it might work. No, it would. Yeah, I think it would work. Let's imagine that isn't there, and this is the 10 line in question. So it's a length 6 line, and let's fill it with the example, which is 5131. Oh, 513173. Yeah, I think that's okay, isn't it? So the idea here is you can see there are effectively 2 segments
Calvinball asked it, and I have one puzzle where the standard rule set wasn't valid. I've had plenty of puzzles where I have some additional variation on the rule sets. I did have one where it was explicitly the digits can't repeat on 10 lines, but then I think my rule set I didn't edit, so it included an example where digits repeated.
We could divide it into this segment, because those 2 sum to 10, and the purple segment, because 5 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1 is also 10. So that's an example of how a 10 line could work. Any set of 3 sequential cells along an entropic ent line, very Tolkien-esque, must contain a low digit, a 1, 2 or 3, a middle digit, a 4, 5 or 6, and a high digit, a 7, 8, 9.
Clumps, yes.
Digits may repeat on an ent line if allowed by other rules. So
I guess that technically could
these
happen.
three squares, one of them has to be low, one of them has to be middly, one of them has to be high. That's how it.
I think for this rule, for the entropic, I'd never had a puzzle that had an entropic line in it before, with the exception of Buffet, which was like a build your own puzzle that had one of the lines as an entropic line. Uh, but This one, I just went on LMDB and found like an entropic rule I could copy. Ranks maintains a very nice collection of ways of writing rules. So if you are ever like using standard variants and you want ways to spell out the rules, I recommend going in Ranks document, which you can obtain somewhere, that has sort of standard rules wording. But they're standard rules wordings for 6x6s, which is why I got the entropic one somewhere else.
Entropic lines work. There is this one down here. Just to mention a quick point here. So there has to be one medium, or one low, one medium, one high in these three cells. But there also has to be one low, medium, and high in those three cells. And if you think about that, you should be able to deduce something about those two cells.
Yeah, I really enjoyed doing that.
I won't do that yet, because that's sometimes people get cross with me when I do the examples or when I do the instructions, because they consider that some of the things I say are helping people to solve the puzzle, and I mustn't do that. Now, let's see, what's the next rule? Digits on a purple Ren line, so that's going to be a Renban line, form a set of non-repeating consecutive digits in any order. So imagine this square was a 1. This Renban line now, because we know it has to contain consecutive digits, would contain the digits 1, 2, and 3. And they can be in any order, so they don't have to be 1, 2, 3, they could be 1, 3, 2. That would be a totally legitimate way to fill a Ren line. Sometimes called Renban, obviously. Digits do not repeat along a gold Nabna line. Additionally, no pair of digits anywhere on a gold line can be consecutive. So we've got
nice, because I remember your comment.
I think.
So from the video.
Means, let's say we
welcome.
put the digit 2 into this square. Then this line could not have another 2 here, because that would be a repeated digit, which is illegal along a Nabna line. But you also could put nowhere on this line could you put the digits 1 or 3, because 1 and 3 are consecutive with 2, and a Nabna line must be absolutely.
Oh yeah, I have been watching I watched Rank's stream for a year and a half at least before I started streaming. So yeah, so I've known of David before David even watched my streams, because it was before I streamed. So that was cool. But yeah, and my first streaming experience was guesting on Rank's stream. Actually, that was my first time doing any streaming, and I enjoyed it. So obviously, I eventually started streaming, because now I've done like 340 streams or something like that, which feels impossible. By the way, I don't know. I'm curious if anyone in chat has a strong opinion. Selena has an alternate wording for Nabners, which is that any 2 digits that appear on a Nabner must differ by at least 2. Which I think is quite elegant and concise and combines both 2 pieces. But I think it logically is maybe more useful to explicitly call out the digits can't repeat on it. So I'm curious if people have a preference of how it's expressed, because I went with the way of expressing it here. I'm curious if people would prefer I use the Selena approved method about any pair of digits differ by at least 2, and whether or not you think that if I said that, people would then ask if you could repeat digits on it or not, which I somewhat suspect I might then get questions on LMDB asking, or sorry, not LMDB, LMD, asking if digits could repeat if I wrote that without then explicitly putting a parenthetical, but I'm not sure.
Unconsecutive, if that's the correct terminology. Along green GW lines, so German whispers is sometimes what they're called, adjacent digits must differ by at least 5. Right, so let's imagine this square was a 1. This square would have to be at least 6. It would be 6, 7, 8, or 9 to ensure that it's at least 5 different from 1. And I think there's one more rule. Digits separated by a black dot have a 1-to-2 ratio, meaning one is exactly double the other. Not all dots are necessarily given. So if this square was a 2, this square is either going to be 4, because 4 is double 2, or it's going to be 1, because 2 is double 1. So that is how black dots work. And the line about not all dots are necessarily given means that, imagine this, it's totally fine in this puzzle for these to be a 2 and a 4. There doesn't have to be a black dot between.
Can you just imagine if you were given this grid and it turned out in the rules that all dots were given? I feel like that would be like absolutely maddening. Like you, I mean, this one does have 2 black dots. It's of note these black dots are not disambiguating black dots in this puzzle. I have I don't know, one of my frequent style points is that I will often, if I need to disambiguate a puzzle, I will often do that with a single black dot, because I think they are quite elegant and stately as constraints. Neither of these black dots is that kind of black dot. Neither black dot was the last clue added to all lines are given gives me more dread. Yeah, I always put there are no negative constraints of any kind at the end of my puzzles, Garion, in the LMD rules, just in case. I do often find that, like, I wonder what someone thinks when it's like a pure double arrow puzzle that doesn't know me and sees that there are no negative constraints of any kind in the thing, where it's like, yeah, the pure Renbon puzzle where there are no negative constraints of any kind, whatever. One of the first puzzles I tried to set that I never successfully set was I tried to set a killer puzzle with a negative constraint where all possible killer cages that sum to 21 or something were given, which is not as good an idea as it sounds like. I will say, having tried to play with it.
2 cells that differ in value in a sort of 1-to-2 ratio. It's just we know positive information about those dominoes there. And we get a given digit. Do have a go. zetamath's puzzles are always a treat. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. But now, I get to play. Let's get cracking.
There are at least 6 black dots that were not given.
Let's just think about this. What is the break-in? Is it 45 down there? 45 being a secret about Sudoku that I only let my very favourite people in on. And I'll tell you, of course, if you're still watching the video, that the secret being 45 is the sum of the digits in any box of a Sudoku, because any box of a Sudoku will contain the digits 1 to 9 once each. But I actually don't like that thought very much. Although I know digits along a Renban line will always sum to a number that's divisible by 3, I don't think entropic lines have a mathematical property, do they? One low, one middly, one high. Doesn't feel like they do. The reason Renban lines are always divisible by 3 is, think about the middle valued digit along here.
Yeah, if instead of an entropic line, that was a modular line, that would be a very useful point. Then,
because the digits are consecutive, you know there will be one digit with the value x plus 1 and one digit with the value x minus 1. So the line overall sums to 3x, which is obviously divisible by...
Yeah, it makes sense that a lot of people I've seen sort of look at box 9. I mean, box 9 is entirely covered in lines, so it is necessary, or so it is a very natural place to look. I don't think I've ever had a puzzle that started in box 9, but there's different setting philosophies about this. So in general, sort of there's the philosophy of always start in box 1 if you have the option to, because it's kinder to the setter and there's no reason to hide it. And then there's the philosophy of you should roll a 9-sided die and start the puzzle in a randomly chosen box. Based on whatever box it lands in, so that someone who's looking at the grid doesn't know where to start and gets to have that be sort of part of the deductions. I'm definitely on the start in box 1 style. And in fact, I obviously you can rotate the grid any way you want. This one doesn't start in box 1 because, as I noted, it is involves these things. So I made my box 1 look as unappealing as possible for people who might know that I usually start in box 1. So like a Renbon that bends in a really unpleasant way together with a length 3 entropic line, I thought would make people not spend a lot of time there. Now, I will say the original, when I started making this puzzle, it actually started with a box 1 that looked very much like this box. And I sort of played it out for a while, and I was trying to make it so that every box in the grid just was 3 length 3 lines, or less than 3, but always length 3 and perpendicular to each other or whatever. But at some point, I found it got a little sloppy, and then I sort of started again, having learned some of the things. And so, like, there are a lot of useful deductions that you can make just by squinting at this box, for example, that one could that could come into play later if you do think about this. So I don't think it's a waste of time for a solver to think about this at the beginning. It just doesn't happen to be the nice place to start.
By 3. There's. I see. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's have a look at. Okay. There is a 1-9 pair that I've noticed, which might be relevant. Okay, and where I'm seeing the 1-9 pair, just to, in case you want to try and get it for yourselves and you haven't got it yet, is have a look at those 2 columns and think about why there might be a 1-9 pair available. The way I'm getting that is using a feature actually of the German whispers lines here. So let me explain. I should have said pause and done it Agad Meta style, but it didn't occur to me. So we know that there is a middle valued digit along an entropy line. So that's a 4, 5, or a 6. So there's definitely one of the digits 4, 5, and 6 in that sequence. And there's one of the digits 4, 5, and 6 in this sequence. So that means there's one of the digits 4, 5, and 6 in this sequence. And that is interesting. So let's just talk a little bit about secrets about German whispers lines. The first secret is you cannot put 5 on a whisper. Because if you do, the next digit, the adjacent digit, is impossible from a Sudoku perspective, because it has to have a value that's 5 different, at least, from 5. And if we go down, we get to 0 and negative numbers. If we go up, we get to 10 and higher. They're not Sudoku digits. So there's no 5 on this line. But think about 4s and 6s. That's really difficult to put on a German whispers line, because they both only have one partner. 4 and 6 are sort of monogamous digits vis-a-vis German whispers lines, because 4 only has one digit that's at least 5 away from it, and that's the digit 9. 6 only has the digit 1 that's 5 away from it. So what that means is along this line you can't put the 4 or the 6 here, because you'd have to put double 9 around it. If you put 6, you'd have to put double 1 around it. So 4 or 6 have to be at one end of.
I wonder if him explaining this at length is going to mean he doesn't get tripped up by the thing that most people who've solved this get tripped up by, which is to have forgotten that one of these 2 cells is 4, 6 by the time it becomes relevant again.
This line. I don't know what the digit is that's 4 or 6
you can't
on this
pencil
green
mark
line,
it
but
in any
whichever it
meaningful
is,
way.
this digit is forced to be the extreme partner of the 4 or the 6. And that logic applies in this column as well, doesn't it? So this digit is 1 or 9. That feels quite zetamathy, actually. Oh, I can hear Maverick. Maverick
Hi,
is
Maverick.
celebrating a Zetamath puzzle by taking off and buzzing past my window. Top Gun style. So
Don't
what's
challenge
that
me
doing?
on obscure convoluted pencil
Doing
marks.
it's either doing something to the 10 lines or it's doing something to the GW line in the middle. A 5. 5 in this row has to be on a 10.
So, speaking of obscure pencil marks, I can tell you when I was setting this. So the first 3 clues, or the first clues in the grid, were column 1 and column 9. I didn't have this sort of dingly bit over here from the German Whisperer. It was just the length 3 one to make the 1-9 pairs, and then this length 3 one in the middle. And then I corner marked 4 and 6 into these 4 cells because of that. And then I asked myself, okay, what can I do with these 4, 6 pencil marks? Using the fact that there's exactly 1, 4, 6 here and exactly 1, 4, 6 here, which is why I eventually went with 10 lines. It wasn't like I intended to use 10 lines when I started this out. I was just like, how can I use this pencil mark? What constraint would be kind of interesting with that deduction?
10 lines.
And so that was how this was born.
You can't. Okay, you can't put 4. Oh. Oh, it's something to do with middly digits in the middle row, isn't it? I've nearly got it. My brain is slowly churning how this works. It hasn't got it yet. But what I'm thinking is, because 1 and 9 are in these positions, not only can I not put 5 on this German whisper, I can't put 4 or 6 on it now either. Because if I do, of course, if I put a 4... Well, let's put you 6, because actually the 9 is eliminating. Well, so is the 1-9 pair. But
we spoke earlier about how the black dots weren't the disambiguating clue. The disambiguating clue is the 9. That was the last clue into the puzzle. And I was delighted that placing a given 9 did not ruin any of the logic that I had put in. I was usually, like, by the time you get to the end of a puzzle, adding a given digit is sort of very dangerous because it frequently will just destroy whatever things you've had. So, like, quite often you'll see a lot of setters don't use given digits. At least they don't tend to use given digits sort of at the end of the puzzles, because very often they'll sort of unwind a lot of the thing. But just aesthetically, it really looked nice here, sort of hugged by the 10 line. And then when I checked, it didn't skip any of the steps, I didn't think.
Let's say you put a 6 here. You'd have to put a 1 here, wouldn't you? And that's eliminated by the 1-9 pair. So 4, 5, and 6 in row 5 have to be in these positions. And you can never partner up the 6 with either of the...
Given digits are invisible 90% of the time.
Yeah, you can never partner the 6 with the 5. So, but you could partner the 6 with the 4 and make an exact sum that added up to 10. And what are we left with here then? So the 6 and the 5 are on different sides of the sort of the central... I don't know how to put it. There's a 6 on one side and a 5 on the other.
Here's the impossible pencil mark thing.
Yeah, either partnering up with a 4.
And this is so bait. I 100% knew this was baiting when I set this. I knew that it was going to be really tempting at this point to think, okay, so one of the sides has to be 4, 6, and start going from there. But of course, neither side can be 4, 6, because the way we got these 1-9s is to note that one of these 2 cells and one of these 2 cells is 4 or 6. So in fact, for me, the full version of the break-in here is neither of these lines can be too long. They both have to be at least 3 long. That to me is sort of the full break-in, is that statement. But it takes a minute to put together 2 different facts that he's already said to get there.
And that will have a 1 to complete it. Or the 6 and the 4 get together and they make a 10 sum in the natural way. But, yeah, okay, so what's going on in the middle then? So the middle digit of the puzzle can't be 3. And it can't be 7. Why am I saying that? Well, 3 and 7 aren't quite as constrained as 4 and 6 are, but they're still a little bit constrained in the sense that if this digit was a 7, for example, there are 2 digits that you can partner 7 with, but they include the digit 1, so it would be a 1-2 pair, and that's ruled out. And the corollary of that, which is sort of just the symmetrical situation, is 3 would have to be surrounded by 8 and 9, and that's ruled out by the fact we've got 9s here. So this central digit is 2 or 8 only. So, but okay, you cannot. Yeah, we can't put a high digit in the edges, can we? Because yeah, we know one side is one side in this domino. I don't know how to sort of articulate this very clearly, but I'm trying to. So let's just give these dominoes colours. I know on one side I've got a 6, and on the other side I've got a 5. I do not know which way round they go. But what we can't do is accompany either the 6 or the 5 with a high digit.
Yeah, that's like David was saying. He thought about the low digits. That's closer to how I would think about it. Although I was using the fact that these sums were, or I was already using the fact that these 10 sums are length 3. I think it was Nell when I watched her solve it. I think she immediately said, "Where are 7 and 8 in this row?" And then said, okay, well, 7 and 8 in this row definitely aren't joining a 4, 5, 6. So the 7, 8 pair is here. And so that makes this high, which is basically what Simon is about to do. So that works equally well. I'll admit, when I was setting this, I never thought about the 5 until maybe I was confusing Nell and Timotab. Maybe I was thinking of Timotab's version. But I never once thought about the 5 until I figured out that these 10 sums, by virtue of being length 3, had to be maximized.
By a high digit, I mean a digit that is 6, 7, 8, or 9. And that means we need to gift. We need to allow a low digit to leak out in this row. So this sequence here, I think, is going to have a 2 in the middle. Because then the 2 is going to put 2 high digits into these positions, which are going to be 7 and 8. And the digit 3 will then be available to join up in one of these dominoes with either 6 or 5 and create a 10 sum that's valid. Consider it the other way round. Maybe that's the better way to do it. If this was 8 and these digits were then 2 and 3, then I've got to put the digit 7 into one of these squares. Now 7 and 6 and 7 and 5 do not add up to 10. They are far too high. So that's not right, is it? So our first digit in the puzzle, I think, is a 2 here, which is very strange. And now this has to be 7 and 8. And these
I always like when deductions feel strange. That is a
4,
thing
5,
that I quite
6,
enjoy.
And 3. And therefore, and we know there's a 6 and a 5. And okay, and on one side we've got a 1. But I don't know which side that is. So all we've got to do now, all we've got to do is figure out how this works. So,
when I originally drew this, I tried drawing it with this 10 lines on both sides being symmetrical, sort of bending into this, but that breaks because these things overflow really fast. And then I tried them both sort of kinking like this, and that wasn't quite as exciting. And so then I ended up sort of breaking the symmetry here. And I will say, if you're setting puzzles, one of the best pieces of advice I can have for you that I don't always follow well is to break the symmetry in the grid early, by which I don't mean the logical symmetry. I just solely mean the aesthetic symmetry of, oh, I've got the lines that are exactly the same mirroring across, in this case, column 5. Your puzzle's never going to end with mirror symmetry, because then your puzzle would have more than one solution. And so you're only going to make it increasingly more painful for yourself to eventually break it. So just break it as soon as you feasibly can. Now, that's not to say you should never have any symmetry. Like, symmetry tends to make grids prettier, and I think the symmetry that is here makes this grid, at least to me, look better. Like I like the look of this grid, and also signals that you're supposed to look at something, but try not to get distracted trying to carry, at least for me, trying to carry out that symmetry is always a trap, because then it's never going to last, and then you're going to feel horrible when you have to suddenly put in a clue that breaks it. So anyway, I sort of felt nice once I broke it, and then I was able to draw in clues that aren't
Do we do this? So it's either going to be 5, 3, 2 on one side. If it was 5, 3, 2...
Or heaven forbid 5, 3, 1,
we
1.
couldn't spill the 2 over into the middle box. So if it was 5, 3, 2 on one side, it would have to be here. 5, 3, 2. And this would be 6, 4.
Yeah, David, that is a classic. If you want full symmetry,
there
are a few ways you can do it. So one way is to mirror white dots and black dots across each other. That works. Or one of my puzzles, I mirrored German whispers in 10 lines, and so that works. I was actually considering if I could do like a interesting 10-line entropic line puzzle after this, because I found that they played together pretty nicely, but I didn't use that play a lot in this puzzle just because of where they ended up. So it might be interesting to play those against each other at some point.
Plausible, doesn't it? Hang on. Now I'm missing a trick here, aren't I? I think I've got to combine this with how the whispers work. Oh, this is really clever, Zeta. This is really clever.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah, because what I'm missing, what I've been missing, and it's stupid of me, but I have been missing it, is that 6 and 4 is not a valid domino in either of these positions, because either 6...
Well, if Simon watches this, you can at least feel better that I knew people would miss this for a moment and have this sort of penny drop moment, as Simon often calls it. And that was what I was that was part of why I liked this, is like, I just know someone's going to say both of the two facts they need to say in their head to get here, and then not quite say them and then get there. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't feel good about it. Like, I think it would be really dissatisfying if someone like thought about this for 30 minutes and then realized that, oh, I've said two things that combine to tell me the thing I need. But having a brief moment before of staring and being like, what, and thinking like, well, surely one of these has to be 4, 6, and then going, oh, I think is a pretty satisfying moment.
6 or 4 are in these squares in one box or the other. So 6, 4 is impossible. 6, 5 is impossible. So 6, 3 is on one side or another. And if 6, 3, 1 has to be on one side of this. And then no, I don't like that. I really don't like that, because that means the other side is 5, 4, 1. But one side of this has a 1. Oh, I see. That tells you the order. That's lovely. Oh my goodness, I've just been so stupid here. It's just unforgivable. I've been unforgivably thick, but I think I now have understood it. I'm so sorry.
This is another of my like general sort of setting philosophies, is I like to disambiguate, like whenever there's sort of this, okay, something is happening on the left and something is happening on the right, I try and disambiguate it as soon as possible, because I think trying to keep track of that is a little can get a little brain melting in a way that I think is fun the first few times you do it, but doesn't lead to lasting fun, we'll say, over the long term, at least for me as a solver, so I tend not to do it. The last puzzle that Simon did of mine was Alarm, which is a pretty old puzzle of mine, which is one where I just couldn't break the symmetry until way later than I wanted to, and so I had to make it really satisfying to do it when you actually did do it. It wasn't anywhere near the end of the puzzle, but it was quite far into the puzzle for me. Here I was really happy with how I was able to break it this way.
Sorry. Right. So I'm finally there, and that's appalling of me. But the point is that because neither domino can be 6, 4, they're both 3 cell 10 sequences. One of them is 6, 3, 1. The other is 5, 4, 1. Now look at this. That means there is definitely, indubitably, a 1 in that sequence. Because both are 3-cell sequences. So this
Hey, Jay,
has
congrats
to be the
on the
9,
feature today.
because if it was 1, that 3-cell sequence couldn't exist. This is now 1 on this side. And that means...
I was also thinking, like, when I sort of think about this, I was thinking, okay, so I can just plug in both of these ones right away. And so I'm surprised those weren't his first digits. But this, of course, because the reason why they weren't was because his first concern was, oh no, I'm going to break the puzzle because one of the ones is going to break the 1-9, which is totally understandable because he is looking at this side where, yes, it wouldn't work, and not noting the slight asymmetry. So it makes sense that he would then plug in the ones afterwards because of the way his thought process went through this, of sort of noticing without noticing the asymmetry in the lines that makes it work.
That means this is a 1, because we know that this 3-cell sequence has a 1 in it. So that 1 must go here. So now, and this has a 1 in it, so we know that goes there. But how do I know the order now? Oh, I do know I see, because now, remember what we said right at the beginning, which is that this German Whispers line has either 4 or 6 on it.
Hey, Blackjack Fitz, hope you're doing well.
Because 6 and 9 are not 5 apart. So there is a 4 in one of these squares, which means this doesn't have 4 on it, which means it doesn't have 5 on it. So this is 6, 3, 1. This is 5, 4, 1. This is beautiful. And there's a 6 in one of those, which goes along with its partner, the 1. Yeah, you've got to... Yeah, so I've been very slow, but you just have to put it all together. So look, I can extend that 10 sum there, extend that 10 sum there. So that's our first 10 summage. And therefore...
So I always like using X's on lines to break 10 sums and like draw line segments on them. But it has the problem that it's hard to draw an X on one of these. I saw Ropels today solve this puzzle, and he separated the 10 sums by drawing a diagonal line through here to separate it, and I thought that was genius, and I've never seen it, and I will probably do it from here forward when doing sort of 10 sums puzzles where I'm separating diagonal lines.
Wow.
Oh, does Simon do that? I don't think I've seen Simon do that.
I'm quite interested in this segment of 10 sum now. Okay, no. Come on, stick to the knitting, Simon. Right. These two digits, we need digits that are at least 5 different from 9. And they can't be 1 or 3, so they are a 2-4 pair. Oh, I see. And then the entropic lines either side are just going to have... One of them will have 1, one will have 3, one of them will have 5, one of them will have 6, one of them will have 7, one of them will have 8. Maybe it is that line, I'm not sure. Or can we do...
Yeah, David, there's sort of two things to notate. There's... I know the sum goes at least this far, and I know the sum ends here, and I try and use both notation systems to keep track of both of those. So, like, if I'm doing a puzzle where I need to keep track of, okay, well, at least this sum extends this far, and at least this one extends this far, but it might go further, I can denote that with the line, and then the X to say I know it's over. It's not relevant in all 10 lines puzzles, but it has happened before.
Let's get rid of the indigo and the red. It's a little bit... What we'll do instead, is we'll do little barriers. Oh, I can't do it. No, hang on, that doesn't work. I can't draw. I could do that barrier. Yeah, I'll do that barrier to indicate that's a 10 sum, and I've got to divide the rest of it into...
Oh, that's clever.
Into segments.
I've never thought of doing that.
Oh, no, I can't. I actually can't. I don't know what's... I know one of those is a 6, but the other could be 7, 8, or 9, I think. So this box is far more constrained than this one, which is sort of slightly surprising.
Yeah, that is my one issue with this. Is now it looks like this is a parody line to me.
I'm going to pencil mark that. I'm not proud today. 2 is not on that black dot. So that black dot there is either 4, 8 or 3, 6, because we need one of the digits to be double the other. So 1, 2 and 2, 4, which are two possible sequences of being...
I will say, as a setter and a solver, I find pencil marking fun. So I tend to... I tend to pencil mark a lot when I'm solving. So if you're inclined to feel bad pencil marking things when solving my puzzles, you definitely shouldn't, because I am happy to pencil mark things. And I notice Simon always ends up pencil marking in my puzzles a lot and then apologizing for it. But definitely I am one who enjoys pencil marking.
Eliminated. If it was... Oh no, Nabna. Oh gosh, I'm just not fluent at thinking about Nabna. Okay, I'm going to come back to this, which I've noticed that this sequence of 10 summage hasn't got 1 on it. So, at all, I mean, none of those cells can be a 1. So I sort of want to say, yeah, let's think about that. So how are we going to split these 5 cells into segments, or one segment that sums to 10? Well, what we're not going to do is claim that we can separate it into one segment. You can't make these five
I think you
digits
just
add
said
up
that
to
a lot.
10, because the minimum that these cells will add up to is 9, I suppose, if they were 2, 3 and 4. And the minimum these will add up to is 7 if these were 3 and 4. So adding those together, we get a number that's much higher than 10. Now, there is a secret, it's a tiny secret and almost a fatuous secret about 10 sums, which is that they cannot be one cell long in Sudoku, because the digit 10 is not a Sudoku digit. So any 10 sum is at least 2 cells long. And this can't be...
Yeah, definitely in
segment, so
my brain, my next place to look was at box 9. But admittedly, when I was setting this, I didn't know where this 10 line or this 10 line was going yet, so these 10 lines didn't exist. When I'm setting with 10 lines, I tend to just sort of have a line that's extending far enough and keep track of what I know, and just only make deductions that I know, assuming that the line can extend arbitrarily far in some direction from there. So sort of, I only had it penciled these 3 cells and these 3 cells, and then the rest of it I sort of figured out as I went along, was my way of sort of setting with 10 lines.
Actually 2 segments, isn't it? It's a 2-cell segment and a 3-cell segment. Now the one I want to think about there is the 3-cell segment. Because a 3-cell segment that doesn't include a 1, but has to add up to 10, is only 2, 3, 5. That is the only way we can do it using Sudoku numbers. And that is rather beautiful in this instance.
Oh, it's somewhat unfortunate because it's not true in this instance. Because I think at the moment this can still be 3, 4, 3. Because the 5, if the 3-cell sum is this one, it's 100% true. But yeah, this one could be 3, 4, 3. Perhaps, fortunately for Simon, it is not 3, 4, 3.
Well, is it actually? It's not, actually, no, I can't quite do it. Well, what I can say is that because there is a segment here that's a 2, 3, 5 segment, there is a 2 on the line somewhere, and that's there. So there is now a 2 on the Renban at the bottom. So there's a 3. Okay, that gives me a digit. Yeah, so I couldn't do what I wanted to do here, but I do know, because 2 is on this 5-cell segment, 2 must be here by Sudoku, because it can't be here. Using the 2 that's here, and Sudoku, of all things, outrageous in a Sudoku puzzle, places a 2 on a 3-cell Renban. So what digit do we know must also be on the Renban, given its consecutive numbers? It's either 1, 2, 3, or it's 2, 3, 4. So it's definitely got 3 on it, and that fixes this digit, look. So we can get a couple more. Now there's a 3 as the low entropy digit up here, which means there's a 1. This is good.
I think this...
There's a 1.
I think this probably doesn't warrant an apology because I don't think this really derails anything. Like I think Simon could have disproved this being 343 pretty easily. He ended up back where he wanted to be, making basically the deduction he wanted to make anyway. Uh, because like the way I would have done this is to say, okay, the one here puts a one on the entropic line because the Renbon can't be 1, 2, 3 because it would break the entropic line. Now I have to put 2 and 3 in this box. Well, when I put 2 and 3 in the box, they're not both going on the Nabner. So one of them is going on the Renbon. And if there's one of 2 and 3 on the Renbon, there's definitely a 3 on the Renbon, and now you're basically where Simon is anyway.
Down here, because there must be a low entropy digit on this bottom entropy thing, and it's not 2 and it's not 3, so it must be 1, and that fixes this Renban. It's 2, 3, 4, which is rather pretty. Now 4 is on this segment of nonsenses. So okay, so that must be part of a 4-6 pair, mustn't it? So yeah, because we know that there's a 3-cell segment on here that's 2, 3, 5. So the 2-cell segment now includes a 4, so that's 4 and 6. I feel like that has to be here, doesn't it? There's no, yeah, because there's.
Yeah, so when I thought about this, I was like, I knew one more thing, which is that I knew that the middle digit down here was a 6. And so I knew that 4 and 6 were corner marked into these 3 cells. This being before I had drawn this additional piece of this 10 line. And so what made me start a 10 line here was knowing that a 4-6 corner marked into these 3 cells would force these two to be a 4-6 pair, because you can't have a 4-6 pair inside a 3-cell 10 sum. And so this was intended to reward the fact that you could Sudoku where everything was on these 2 entropic lines by doing that. Most people who've solved this have looked at the 10 line first and sort of fallen back into it a little bit by thinking about these 2 things sort of more weaved together than the order I thought about them, because they had clues that I didn't. It doesn't really break the flow of the puzzle or anything, but most people have not ultimately ended up saying, oh, there's a 4 and a 6 in these 3 cells, and therefore this is a 4-6 pair, which is, I think, a cute a cute 10 line thing in general that doesn't show up super often.
I can't put 2, 3, 5 here and then 4, 6 here because I know there's a 4 on this segment. So I think the 4,
there are other
we have to put 4, 6 first, and then that's a 2. And now this is 3 and 5, and the segment division is there. So this line is now forced. Oh, I'd lost my redness. There we go. And therefore, oh, now the middly entropic digit on here is not 4 or 6, so it is 5. So the middly entropic digit here is 6. I'm going to see, and this has either got 7 or 8 on it, and the same is true down here. Gosh, this is very clever, isn't it? It really is. There's going to be an X-wing of either 4s or 6s using this arrangement. Because this is either 3-6, in which case there's a 6 X-wing, or it's 4-8, in which case there's a 4 X-wing. So
he spotted that right away, which was also definitely intentional.
That's, oh, is that doing something to that Renban? Oh, I don't know, but look, in box 5, these squares are known. Oh, that's quite handy. That's 4, 6, and 9 by Sudoku, so that digit's a 2, that's a 4. And the 6 being here places the 6 on the other whisper. So this digit is now 7 or 8. This digit is low, because we have to have a digit here that's at least 5 different from 7 or 8. So when I say low, it's actually 1, 2, or 3. So it's absorbing one of the low entropy digits here.
He noticed that right
Probably
away.
what we have to do Hang on, let me just think about this. I'm not sure actually, but oh, I see. I can do Sudoku. All right, I'm going to do Sudoku. That's probably what we have to do next.
Sudoku's
So
always helpful.
these are 2 and 9, are they? So although I don't know what this digit is, I do know these are the digits 3, 7, and 8, and 2 of those are right. Yeah, okay. So this is 3 and 7. It must be, because how else are we going to make a 10 sum possibly work if these are the only candidates? We certainly can't have this being a 7-8 pair. That adds up to 15. There's no 10 segment possible. So
7 and 8 and a -5.
3 is one of these digits, and it can't combine with 8, can it? So that must be 3, 7. That becomes 8. That doesn't limit this one, unfortunately. But now... Right, so now I've got a 3-cell segment here that adds up to 10.
Yes, Simon is afraid of Nabner logic, which admittedly, Nabner logic can get quite scary. I think in this puzzle, there is no scary Nabner logic. Like, the scariest thing I think he presently has to do is to note that if there's a 9 on the Nabner by Sudoku, there is not also an 8 on the Nabner by Sudoku. But I can definitely relate to thinking about especially a 4-cell Nabner a little bit tragic. But yeah, in this case, this Nabner is to catch the 4 or 6, which is placed through this Renbon onto this to rule off 5 from it, is exactly how I used it. Although that also, you don't have to think about it quite that hard in order to actually solve the puzzle. And this one is used to do 2 things, one of which is to place 8 over here, and the other of which is to make this cell a 1, 2, 3, neither of which is done in a particularly sophisticated way.
Which is apparently... I'm wondering if there's a reason somehow that it can't be 2, 3, 5. I don't know actually. I'm not sure. Let's put our divider in. There we go. I could do that.
I did skim some of the comments before today's stream, and I did see a couple people in the comments realizing that Nabner is Renbon backwards for the first time.
That'll make me feel better about the world. This is not on this Nabner line, so that is not some. Actually, yeah, I mustn't start to think of these as somehow linked. 1, 7, 8, 9 up here. So this did.
I tried at one point to set a 20 lines doubler puzzle, but then I ended up just setting a 20 lines puzzle, and I've never gone back to the idea. But the combining 10 lines with assorted kinds of modifiers is, or S cells or whatever, it is an interesting potential thing to do that I have not seen done so far.
Digit is on here, and it is 7 or 8.
Aside from perhaps in an Andrew Sarkis 6
I don't know what to do. Oh, hang on. What digits have we got on this Nabner line?
Nabner contains a pair of consecutive letters. Okay. Oh no, that is true.
Have a look at column 7 now. Where, actually... Yeah, I should just pencil mark this, shouldn't I?
Oh, maybe I did do that one, Martin. I think I did do that one now that you mention it.
We have got only the digits 5, 7, 8, and 9 to choose from. Well, imagine this was a 7. Then this gold line would have 8 and 9 on it, and they are consecutive, and that is definitely not right.
So it's definitely not the order of the way I would have resolved this, but this is... Well,
these are not 8, these are 5.
It very likely is the way I would have resolved it if I was solving it, but this is not how I thought about it when I was setting it, but it definitely works.
7 and 9, which is rather lovely. That's not 9 by Sudoku.
He saw the given digit. The ever mysterious given digit.
Oh, good grief. Right, hang on a moment. Oh, this is lovely. Oh, lovely. Beautiful. That's my favourite bit so far. Right. Okay.
Box 8?
I now want to look at box 8, please.
Okay,
Because what is this digit? And the answer is, I've not got a Scooby-Doo, except I do know it is one of the digits 1, 2, and 3, because it can't be 5, 7, or 9, and it mustn't be consecutive with any of these digits, so it can't be 4, 6.
This is one of those nice moments. So there's a few clue types in Sudoku that are, I think, in my head, I always call them extensible, just meaning that if you're setting with them, you can always make them longer without breaking the puzzle. So, for example, a German whisper, you can always make longer without breaking the logic you've put into the puzzle so far, in the sense that anything you said before will still be true. On the other hand, a Renbon is very much not extensible, because if you've deduced that a Renbon has to have a 5, but then you added another cell to the Renbon, well, that could have been the 5 or whatever, and so things sort of fall apart. I used the fact that a couple of the constraints here are extensible, as you can see here. The German whispers here started as a length 3 line and got extended. The Nabner line here started as a length 3 line and got extended. And the entropic line here started as a length 3 line and got extended. So I sort of used that property of all three of these in setting this puzzle, sort of, which is how the geometry ended up in this way. Thought it was always Nabna lines. That is amusing to me.
6 or 8.
If I had really thought about it, so I just called my original puzzle with Nabner lines Nabner because I thought it was funny. I at the time, I may not necessarily have chosen that name if I'd have known that it was going to be something that I was going to start seeing all the time. But hey, I'll admit I'm still amused by it, so I don't feel that badly about it.
So I think it's only selectable from 1, 2, and 3. Now I'm going to just think quickly about this segment here of the entropic line. Again, all I know about this is that in 3 cells along an entropic line, I must have a low digit, which is a 1, 2, or a 3. So one of these digits, don't know which one, is a 1, 2, or 3. So now think about this 3-cell segment here, which we know sums to 10, and we know includes a maximum of 1 low digit, one of the digits 1, 2, and 3. So 2 of the digits on here are not from the digits 1, 2, and 3. So it must be a 4.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a Z for zetamath. I do put Z's in my puzzles as often as I possibly can. This wasn't intended as a Z, but I can see it. I will accept it as a Z. But yeah, this is exactly sort of these 3 clues all went in together, this little extension, because I thought of this, I can eat up 2 lows by combining an extension of this Nabner digit and then put a 3-cell 10-sum in here. Is that interesting? Oh yes, it works out that it immediately tells you it's 1, 4, 5, so I was happy with it. So this sort of all of these clues went in exactly to do
5
this,
pair and a
what
1.
he's noticing.
That's the only possible configuration. That is absolutely lovely. That is not 1. This is not 1, obviously, so this is 2 or 3. There's a 2 or 3 on here. Okay. Well, where is the 2 or the 3 on here? One place it's not is in the bottom row.
He saw that
because
right
if there was a 2, 3 here,
that
how would we
me.
fill this black dot? I mean, this is just familiarity with black dots that helps me to see that very quickly, but not that it was particularly quickly, probably for some of you, but 1 and 2 is a possible
instant
combination. 2 and 4, 3 and 6, 4 and 8. They are the only possible black dot combinations. So if 2, 3, and 4 cannot go on a black dot, it cannot be filled. So if I put a 2 or, if there is a 2 or a 3 in one of those squares, I cannot fill the black dot. So that must be 2 or 3. Which means...
Yeah, I always joke that like virtual triples are my favorite thing in setting, but I definitely thought of this as, if I put a black dot here, it will give me a virtual triple in the row of 2, 3, 4, which will place this 2, 3 up here. But The thing has only sort of come to me recently to say it exactly as he did, which is that every black dot has at least one of two, three, four. But I used that extensively, and I think the second most recent puzzle I published, Rorschach or whatever it was, uh, that was a Renban black dot puzzle that used that a lot.
This is not the repeated entropy digit, or the low digit is not the repeated entropy digit that's going to be in those squares. Oh, here's another small point. There has to be a middly digit on this entropic line. It's now not 4 or 5, so there's a 6 in one of those squares.
It's kind of funny to me that he saw the 2, 3, 4 virtual triple before he saw that the middle digit was 6.
3 in the corner up here. Possible chances for 3s in the corner on the other entropic lines as well. So we're not necessarily not singing yet today. Right. So these digits are from 6, 7, and 8, aren't they? Because there must be a high digit here. And it's not 9. Okay, and see, it's just Sudoku. I'm just being slightly obtuse, aren't I? So this is a 7, 8 pair in this column now. Oh, I know. Hang on, I know what these digits are because I got this 5, 7, 9. This is 1, 6, 8 now, and that's not 6. So this is 1 or 8 in the corner, and these squares are now known. They're 3, 5, 7. So these squares.
Oh,
are
that's
now
a horrifying
known. 1,
thought,
8,
Olaf.
9. And if you're saying this does nothing, I would be inclined to agree with you. Oh, bobbins. Okay, this black dot is not 3, 6 now, is it? It's not 1, 2. Because then, right, just to explain that, right, this is clearly not 3, 6 because it's got a 6 looking at it. If it was a 1, 2 pair, this would be a 3, and there would be no low digit to go on this entropic line, and one of those digits.
This step I saw, this tripped up a number of people. I tried to reuse this theme a bunch through the puzzle about using all the low digits to sort of, or the middle or the high through various other Sudoku constraints with the entropic lines. But I saw a lot of people have a longish pause noticing that this black dot can't be 1, 2. And I think the reason is because you see from the row, it can't be 3, 6, and it can't be 2, 4. And then people didn't then sort of turn their eye left and think about it in box 7 for a bit.
Digits is low. So it's not 1, 2.
I do like this black dot.
So it's either 2, 4 or 4, 8. Which I might as well pencil mark. It's definitely got 4 on it. Which means that's definitely not 4. So now I've got a 2 in the bottom row.
Yeah, I saw. So I've seen actually. This is how Tristan and a number of other people did this, was to do exactly that combination. I saw that this black dot wasn't 2, 4 before it wasn't 1, 2. Because if it was 2, 4, then you'd have a 2, 3, 4 quadruple in the row. And so the reason why this green line got extended into this box was exactly to rule out the possibility that it was 1, 2, because up until I extended this green line into this box, it could have been.
This is 4, 8. This is so clever. It's classic zetamath. It's sort of, one of the comments on Logic Masters Germany said something like, it's like entering into a beautiful dance. And that is what it's like. It just is. The digits just dance in this peculiarly beautiful way. Now, okay, so I feel like, yeah, I got a digit in the corner. I was going to say I can't have 4 unknowns now in the bottom row. So I've got 5 or 9. Bobbins. I've got 5 or 9 there, which is high or middly, but I don't know which. I've got 6 or so. I've got an 8 here. That's good. So that gets me a 7 here and an 8 here. So does that mean I've got 4, 8 on this? Probably somehow that I don't know. 7. How do I know what? I feel like this black dot is now resolved.
think it
Um,
is. I would
bother.
resolve
I
it
don't
through
know.
box 1.
Okay, so what else do I do here then? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Um, oh, I've got eight. I've got more. Okay,
That is
Sudoku,
true, David. I hadn't really
unsurprisingly,
thought
rears
about that. There's 3 different arguments that exclude 3 different things from this.
its ugly head again.
I love the Renbon
Oh
in
yeah,
box
where's
1. The Renbon in box
six in
1 might
this
be my
row?
favorite clue in this puzzle.
I've got a 6 and a 6-7 here. That can't be 6 apparently by Sudoku. So I've got 6 on. It's not really a red line. I'm going to remove these red lines now. They're going to confuse me otherwise. I think we've sort of done the logic for the tens lines. So 6 is now in one of 3 places in column 2. Right. The middly digit on the entropy line here is not 4 and it's not 6, so it is 5. So the middly digit up here on this entropy line is 4.
Now, here's the part where Simon might get slightly punished for the fact that earlier when he did this line, he slightly missed a piece of logic that then meant that he didn't think about how this Renbon and this entropic line interact. And so now he definitely is going to have to. I suspect it is not going to take him more than a fraction of a minute to do so. But this is meant to be an echo of the logic from earlier. But it's not, because of the fact that Simon skipped half a step with this 2-3-5 business earlier.
That's quite interesting for the Renban. This Renban's got 7 on it now.
Yeah, okay, yeah, he saw it right away.
Yeah, this is really clever again. It's lovely use of numbers. It's weird. I can't really explain it. I don't know if some of you are watching this having solved this puzzle already, but if you have solved it already, you will know what I mean. It's weird how clever the use of these constraints is. So what all I'm saying here is that 4 is on this entropy line. So immediately, if we think about the Renban, one possibility that should be occurring to us is, okay, if I can't put 4 on it, could it be a 1, 2, 3 triple? And it could have been, except remember this is an entropy line. So one of these digits is a 1, 2 or a 3. So this cannot be a 1, 2, 3 triple. So the digits we're selecting from are 3 consecutive digits from the digits 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. And however we pick those digits out, we're always going to find there's a 7 in the sequence. And now, it's like, where do we put 7 in column 1 now? It's not here, so it's down here somewhere. So now this corner digit can't be a 9, because the high digit on this entropy string is 7. It's not 9, so that's a 5 in the corner. See what I mean? It's just peculiar magic is what we're seeing.
I was really happy with how the entropy lines, which were the first clues in the grid, I was really happy with how the logic kept bouncing through them without quite resolving them. It made me gain a lot of respect for entropic lines, which are a clue type I admit I have not shown a lot of love as a setter or solver in the past. So it was really neat to see how they sort of partially resolved, but only a little bit at a time. So you might be seeing a lot more length 3 entropic lines in zetamath puzzles in the future, because I was really satisfied with exactly how Simon is saying. They just sort of naturally bounced a little bit at a time through the puzzle.
So now what do we do?
Yeah, exactly,
so
Jennifer.
5 and 7 on it. So this is now, up here we've now got 9 on this entropy line. So this is not 7, 8, 9 anymore. So now it's got 6 on it. And if it's got 6 on it, I know where the 6 goes by Sudoku. Oh, good grief. Now I've got 7 in one of these. So the 7 and the 3 get resolved. So
yeah, so in my order of doing this, you could note before having resolved all of this, there is certainly a 4 or 6 on this Renbon, because if there's not a 4 or 6, it definitely breaks the entropy line. And that pairs up with the 4 or 6 here to say there's a 4 or 6 on this line. And then you can think about where 5 goes in this row. So you could do it. There's at one point or another in a draft of this puzzle, there was a slightly more sophisticated version of this, but I was happy with how this ended up flowing with the dot and everything through this.
Therefore, what? What does that mean? Because it's going to mean something. This is 4 and 9, and either 2 or 3. This is 5 and 7, and either 2 or 3. That digit, I don't think we know. If it's high, it's got to be 9. But if it's middly, it's got to be 4. Okay, so it is 4 or 9. Because it's got to have match entropy with this cell. Because these three...
It's good that I was able to leave that ambiguous at this point in the puzzle.
There's going to be one of each there and one of each there.
Like, you'd think it would be resolved.
You know, those two are common. So these two must have common entropy. So I think it's something to do with this digit. Although I don't know what. All right, let's go back to thinking about this line then, which we now know is either 6, 7, and 8, or it's 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so I can see that as a result of that, there's a peculiar sort of 4, 5,
oh my God, we're going to get the 4, 5, 7, 8 quadruple.
Someone in that column.
I think it was Rofels, but I'm not sure.
This
noted
4.
the
Noted
that quadruple, which I had definitely not noticed.
Well, the entropy of this number is high, so that's high. That's 6.
Excellent.
This is not 6 anymore. 7 is in one of those. Oh, one of those 3 squares.
I mean, I do this all the time when I solve puzzles, as anyone who watches me solve puzzles knows. So no shade at all from me, for sure.
Come on, brain. Okay, we can deduce that's 9. That's 2. Oh, dear. 2, is that doing something? If I could get rid of 2 from this square, we would be... Oh, I suppose I can just place 1 in this column, can't I? There's sort of a peculiar naked single that has to go there. Does that do something? No, I don't think it is doing anything. Good grief. What on earth is going on? 6 comes out of this square, so that's no longer able to be 3. Oh, 6. No, this is it. Oh, right. Okay, so 6, I hadn't noticed this, but 6 is just knocked off this. Oh, this is 4. Yeah, okay. 6 is knocked off this, so it's not 6, 3. And then you get the 4 here, which teaches you the order of the 4, 8 that's remaining. It's got to be like that. So that's not 8. That's not 8. 4 has to appear
again,
on this line.
The
so it's now
Sudoku,
exactly there. And goodness, I mean, there's probably got to be a 3 on this Nabna, but I'll think about that in just a moment. This is not 4 anymore. This is not 4 anymore. No, the given digit, which I've ignored steadfastly, now teaches me that's 6, apparently.
Very
so
nice.
This digit is
I cannot see given digits to save my life.
It's not 1, it's 3 or 5. So this is 1. And that means... This is a Nabna, isn't it? I hate Nabnas. Naughty Nabna. Confusing me with your nonsenses. Okay, I've got to put a load... Okay, so these are from 2, 3 and 9. Because one of them's low. Don't know what it is. This is from 2, 3 and 7, is it? Oh no, this could be... No, it can't be 1. 2, 3 and 7. One of these. I wonder
what Nabner puzzle traumatized him. I think he's only done 2 of my puzzles with Nabner lines in them. and I don't think either of them was completely traumatic. Uh, of course, it's possible that the Nabner puzzle that traumatized him is one that never actually showed up on the channel. Oh no, he did do it. He did at least three of mine because he did Beauty Spot as well, or Beauty Mark as well. Uh, my original Nabner puzzle has to be one of my favorite puzzles of mine, like one of the ones that I like the most to go back and look at again.
It's probably some sort of 4, 5 here now makes that a 7.
Yeah, they were.
So that makes
Yeah,
that a
if
7.
you go back to my original Nabner puzzles, they were almost exactly the blue that is now Region Sumlines puzzles. But they
Okay,
weren't
so
Region
this
Sumlines
becomes
puzzles at the
5.
time.
Does that help us or not? This digit is 2 or... that does help us. In this row, this digit has to be a 2, 3 or a 4 by Sudoku, and it can't be 4, so it's 2 or 3, which seems to place 4 in row 8. And now this is a 1. Oh, I was going to say that does something for ones, but it doesn't seem to. Okay. Alright, so we're going to have to keep thinking here. Oh dear. I see. 6 is on the Nabner. Oh, yeah, I know where it goes on the Nabner. It goes there, so that can't be 7. That would be consecutive with 6. There's a knowledge bomb. Now this can't be 5, because it would be so that's 3, that's 5, that's 3. So that's 3, that's 2,
You're welcome,
that's 2,
Simon,
that's
for not
3.
making you do anything fancy with the
That's
Nabner
2,
in this puzzle.
that's 3. Oh, so we're afraid we're running out. We could still get a 3 in the corner here, but that is the last opportunity for 1. That's not... Oh, actually, okay, so we have got a 50-50 chance. Now, does that tidy up all of this or not? Oh, it's probably this Nabner, isn't it? What do we put on it? This digit can't be 5 or 7, so it is 8 or no, it's 9. It's a naked single. It's a naked single, because the actual options for this square now are limited to 9, but a bit by Nabner. Nabner prevents it being 7 or 5. So it becomes 9, that becomes 9, that becomes 4, 4, 5. 5 is up here. This 9 means this is now 8. And in this row, this digit is 5, because it can't be 7, remember, because the 7 is on the Renban. So that's 7. 5 goes here, 4 goes
Tristan,
here,
when he
4
was
goes
solving
here.
this, commented that he was really pleased how long it was into the puzzle before he hit the mark button, which I was also happy about. Like, the clues are still useful until you've filled in basically almost the entire grid. And that is something that follows from my deep and abiding love of really, really weak clues, which is to say clues that in isolation tell you almost nothing, like a length 3 entropic line or a length 3 Renban. Like, almost every clue in this grid in isolation has a bajillion different ways to fill it. Like, you really need them all together to get something, and so that tends to lead to, okay, things are still doing stuff as the puzzle sort of wraps up because you're still resolving the various pieces.
8 goes here, and now 8 is shoved over here as well. So this is 7 and 8, and we can see the order. So 7 and 8 go in. 3, oh, that's going to get me a 3 in the corner. 3 goes there. Let's try and do that digit last. It might not be possible, but it probably is. Actually, it might not be possible. But what are these two digits? 2 and 7. Bother. 2 and 7. And these are 1 and 5. Yeah, so we will do it last. But what we'll note is that 3 is putting a 3 in the corner there. So this is 5. So that's 5. That's 5. That's 1. That's 1. That's 9. That's 9, that's 2, that's 2, that's 7, and that's the last digit. And that's 3 in the corner, that's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. I loved that. That was brilliant. That there was just glorious, as was, let me tell you, the dance we did up here. So the fact that we could work out there had to be a 7 on that Renban. And then, once 9 is up here, there had to be a 6 on it as well. So we knew it had 6 and 7. I think there was probably some... I could have I think I messed about down here where I could have got this black dot a bit more quickly. But yeah, it's just brilliant setting. Oh, is it right? Yes, it is right. Massive audience, 250 people in just a shade over 3 days. Well, that is what zetamath brings to the party. Zetamath, I've done a video in less than an hour. Thank you for that. Even though
You're very welcome,
my ability
Simon.
to understand this row was so bad at the start. Anyway, I will enjoy the comments, especially if they're kind. And let me know how you got on with the puzzle. And I
Thank
hope
you,
you
Simon,
enjoyed
as
it, even though
always.
Shane as
Greatly
much as I did.
appreciated. I
We'll be back
enjoyed
later
this a
with
lot.
Another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.
Yeah, I feel slightly bad that I was the first one to have a solve of by Simon that was over 2 hours. I didn't really intend to set a trend that suddenly everyone would make puzzles that would take Simon over 2 hours. Uh, that was Keep Talking and No One Explodes. I believe was the one. Funnily enough, it wasn't Frack, which I think is the puzzle that Simon did, but it was like 1 hour 57 minutes or something like that. Uh, yeah, I definitely did not put the three in the corner on purpose. I've never put a three in a corner on purpose. But yeah, welcome to anyone new. By the way, I know there's some new folks in chat. Some people coming over from Rank's channel or coming over from CTC or whatever. So welcome everyone, and I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I hope I'll see you around when I'm solving again on Sunday, when I will be solving stuff. Oh, thank you. KF has donated. Let me get you a donation dance from our resident digit dancing penguin. Woohoo! Thank you, KF. Greatly appreciated. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe. I will be back on Sunday. I don't think I have any specific things. I am planning to do the Rat Run puzzles by Marty Sears on stream at some point. That might be Sunday. I might just plan to binge them then. I'm not sure. Simon's longest solve currently is a Patreon video longer than Return of the King. Is it Jay Dyer's Philomeno puzzle? Best of 2024. I didn't keep as good track of puzzles in 2024. So I might not have a good coherent list. I might be able to go back and sort of put one together. I kept really careful track through 2023 of what all my favorite puzzles were, and through 2022 as well. But in 2024, for whatever reason, I did not. I did do a stream where I listed my best of 2024. Or sorry, my best of 2023, which I had sort of like actually come down to, but we didn't come out with a video of it because they ended up taking quite a long time to produce and were fun, but probably not worth the amount of time that they are to produce. But was there one miracle puzzle that took forever? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of miracle puzzles, especially a miracle puzzle that's going to take me 4 hours. Sounds something like torture, but I do get that part of the fun of watching these things is watching the streamer suffer at least a little bit. So I can accept that as part of my duty as a puzzle streamer. Thank you, William. Glad that you enjoyed it. Yeah, there can be a lot of brain that goes into Sudoku at various times, as it would happen. So yeah, I totally understand that. The original Miracle Sudoku. I mean, the original Miracle Sudoku is quite something. And I mean, fortunately, the original Miracle Sudoku is not a super long video. I think that helps a lot, so that humans can solve it if they try hard enough. Puzzle called Region Geometry by KNT. That name sounds kind of familiar. Let's see my favorite really long Simon Solve video is Glipperl's Mid Loop, but I think that one is it's Colot. Oh, okay, that another of the terrifying names out of the setters. For the longest time, it was Glipperl who scared me the most as a setter. But I've done a number of Glipperl puzzles since then. So now Glipperl is maybe a little less frightening. Now, but Kolot is still pretty scary. As is oh boy, I'm still sort of in the middle of their Professor pack. What is the name of the other one who's always posting scary stuff? I cannot think of their name now. My brain is blanking. Uh, your favorite was one of the ones where he needed 45 minutes before putting in the first digit. Yeah, that does happen sometimes. Yeah, the uh, upcoming puzzle of yours will actually be a Miracle CC puzzle. Oh, interesting. Uh, oh boy, yeah, that was during that whole era when people were trying to make a puzzle with only outside question mark clues and nothing else. I remember that era. That era may have been responsible for me doing a lot of pencil puzzles, because I did not much want to do many Sudoku during that era of Sudoku that I'm glad we're mostly past. Uh, I will say I have been enjoying the Sudoku puzzles people have been posting on LMD a lot more again recently. There was a period where I found the style had gotten kind of away from my preference a bit. Uh, things tend to ebb and flow because we get a bunch of new setters, and so every new setter goes through this phase where they sort of start and they come up with these great puzzles. And then what happens is they get better at Sudoku, and there's this natural tendency as you get better at Sudoku as a setter to understand things that people ought not to understand. And then when you understand something that you ought not to understand, sometimes you put it into a puzzle, and then it tends to make puzzles that end up being a little too look-aheady, a little too gritty, a little hard in the wrong way or whatever, because you don't have that sort of that. Like at first, you don't do that. Because you don't have the capacity, and then you have the capacity, and then at some point after that you hit the point where you realize that you should restrain yourself and not put those things in, and then you become better again. So this is sort of curve of like you start out putting out good puzzles, and then there's this like slump before you sort of get back to that restraint. And because a lot of setters sort of come into the scene sort of in parallel, they seem to come in, I don't know, clumps or whatever. uh you tend to go through periods where you can see like a bunch of people going through that sort of that dip in my mind. But we're sort of now at a point where I'm seeing a lot of people sort of putting out really stellar constructions. So I'm that are pretty consistent and smooth throughout. Of course, part of it is also taste. Like some people like look ahead stuff or case checking stuff more than I do. But like, yeah, the slog is definitely what I try to avoid feeling like puzzles are. Uh, yeah. The puzzles are made to be solved. I think it was Sam Kappelman Lyons who said something that stuck with me very very early on in my setting career, which is something like uh, the goal of the setter is to put up a good fight and lose gracefully, and that is definitely something that I sort of hold to as the you don't want to go down like slinging. Oh yeah, Sam. Sam is truly one of the greats of the Sudoku community. Uh, Definitely has conveyed a lot of wisdom to me over my time that I have taken with me. Uh, but anyway, thank you everyone for hanging out and joining me for this today. Do subscribe if you're new. We greatly appreciate it. And if you really enjoy the channel and you're a regular, consider supporting the channel if you don't already. Huge thanks to everyone who does, including our Turbines, Daniel, David, Franco, Nell, Nordy, and Plonktime. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back Sunday with more. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.